So today's topic is database management systems, and this is absolutely core to what we're doing because the course happens to be named Database Management Systems. So what we're going to talk about here is a core level, kind of base level understanding that we need to move forward, right? What are database management systems? What are these things that we're going to be discussing all semester? And the answer is that by the way, our agenda here, we're only talking about topic one here. The rest of these we're going to come back to in later videos. But database management systems now, what this is this is a software toolset, a wrapper, if you will, that we're going to use to allow us to work with a database. I'm going to come more back to that more in a moment. Let's first talk about what a database is. So a database is a collection of information that exists over a long period of time. And a couple of things I want to pick apart here. The first is information. So information, by the way, is just data that has meaning or context, right? So I could collect a whole lot of data. So I could collect data on where every person is on, every interstate in the United States. That's a lot of data. But information is knowing that in certain areas, the people aren't moving, right? So maybe there's a traffic jam there. Information is knowing that there's a much higher or lower amount of people on particular roads at any given time or at times of year. Information is knowing how weather is affecting their travels, right? So information is that value that data gives us. And a database is a place that we can put that information, right? Now, the long period of time part is important because it's kind of implied here that this has to exist, and it definitely has to exist longer than the application that's running. So, if you're running Postgres or MySQL or Oracle or SQL Server or SQLite or whatever, and you shut down the computer, your database has to persist longer, which usually means that we're writing it out to disk. Anytime that you're writing a large amount of information to disk, it presents challenges. It presents challenges in how you retrieve the data, the speed at which you retrieve it, how do you manage where that information is stored on the disk, how do you allocate new blocks or sectors of the disk. We're going to get a little bit more into that detail later, but there's a lot of detail there. Imagine for a moment that you just save flat files, right? You create like text files, and you fill these text files with some kind of data that is marked in a way that you could find it, and you want to query this data. Now, how are you going to do that? Let's say you have hundreds or thousands or millions even of these files. You're going to have to devise some software that's going to read those files, and it's going to have to give you the ability to logically look for the piece of information in some way, right? What happens when you want to add a new piece of information? Does it get added into a file at the end? Does it get updated into a file next to related information that already existed? How do you manage all that, right? There's actually a lot to that, and as we'll talk about a little bit later, a lot of database management systems primarily actually don't really talk to the disk through the operating system. They actually do it directly. They actually allocate their own space and manage it, and then they also manage the transition between your disk and memory. There's actually a lot to do there, and we haven't even got into logging and backups and all the other pieces that go with it, right? So what we're describing here is that tool set, and that is what we wrap around our database and make it useful, right? And that is what a database management system is. So it has to give us the tools we need to manage this data, and it also has to persist for long periods of time. Usually that means in the scope of years, at least at a minimum, hopefully a lot longer than that. But it also means that we we'll probably need ways to even have that data in primary and standby. So you have ancillary sites and perhaps disaster recovery sites that are offsite. Perhaps you want to distribute your data geographically over data centers all over the world to, effectively give speed and lack of latency to all regions of the world that want to access it. There's a lot to how you manage all these pieces, and database management systems do that. They give us the tools we need to make that happen. Especially when you're dealing with like terabytes or petabytes of data. You need a system that is capable of doing that. We're going to talk about two different kind of interfaces that we have with our database management system. Two different languages, if you will, that we're going to use to talk to it. And it has to have both of these things to be a viable database management system. The first is the data definition language. The data definition language allows us to create new databases, allows us to alter them, it allows us to update the database itself. I'm going to refer to this as its schema, which is the logical structure of its data. The schema is our description of the places we're going to store data. What are these containers going to look like? You probably have heard the term table, right? A table is a place that we have columns and rows, and those columns describe the type of data and the size of the data and the values and everything that we can put in the rows, right? So if I have a table that saves user information and I have a column that saves the user's first name and last name and maybe their age, the age one will probably have a data type of integer, and it will have a limit of say 1,000. Wouldn't we all be so lucky? But there's no reason to store more than really 3 numbers there, right? I mean, hopefully, it would be really nice if there was, but there's not, right? And when you get into millions or possibly billions of rows or more in your database, every bit counts, right? How big that value is counts. So that is part of what we're doing with the data definition language, right? We're creating that schema, that definition of the data that can be put inside. The other piece of this is the data manipulation language. So this is the piece that allows us to query the data, modify the data. So if I wanted to update a user that I'd stored in that user table, I would write a statement, and I'll use colloquial SQL that we're going to be talking about further down in the course. Something like update users set, and then first name equal to Brian, where ID equals 5, or something like that, right? So this is a language that is very high level, and it allows us to work with our data. This is super, super important because it abstracts away the gory details of how the database management system actually works, how it manages those files, how it actually finds that piece of data that, for that record where it's changing my first name in a file somewhere, and actually deals with that, right? So it abstracts away all of that. You don't have to know that as a programmer. You don't have to open the file off of the disk and open a stream. You don't have to find the right place in the file that matches the string that you're looking for. You don't have to now know the constraints of what the size of that field can be. All of that is done by the database management system, because we used our data definition language, by the way, to say what the constraints on that first name were. Perhaps we said that you can have up to 50 characters to create the first name field, right, for that column. So that, when you then use the data manipulation language, will be adhered to, right? You won't be able to insert something that is more than 50 characters long. So those are the two pieces that we're going to use. I mentioned SQL earlier. We're going to come back to that throughout the course, so that's not really a big topic for today. But the most common data manipulation language that are used in database management systems is what's called SQL, which is structured query language. Some other traits of a database management system. So we talked about it having to store data and having to persist for a long time, but it has to store a large amount of data or be capable of it. Otherwise, it's not very relevant. So nowadays, especially your terms all the time like big data, now we're working with gigabytes is common. That's just commonplace. Terabytes is not uncommon, and petabytes is increasingly becoming more common. So the amount of data that we are harvesting is absolutely insane. I didn't work for, I was a co-founder of a startup about between 5 and 8 years ago. And we did indoor localization. And what we did is basically track little Bluetooth beacons. I have some of them here. Or we use the beacons to track devices, right? So we had these little things, and they were mounted everywhere, like every 20 to 30 meters or so, depending on the installation and the building materials and that kind of stuff. And what we would do is, any device, we had these little lanyards and watches and things, but a phone could do it too, right? A phone would go and it would pick up the signal from all these beacons, and it would send all that information to our servers, and our servers would chomp on that information and triangulate your location based upon all of the data you collected. So if every half a second your phone is collecting, okay, I see 15 beacons, this is the signal strength I get from each one, sends that back to the server crunches on it, sends you back a location, right? Or shows the location on the screen to someone else over like a base cloud app. It could track assets, it could track people, it could track people in a disaster. The idea here, though, was that all of that, every half second, is collecting, right? So that's one device collecting, say 15 things, and those 15 things probably had 10 actual data points that they were passing back. And then you say, okay, so you got all that for one device, but now you say in a single installation, you might have 50 or 100 devices or 1,000 doing that every half second. And then you say, okay, that's one site. Now, maybe I've scaled my business and I have thousands of sites. And I can't throw away this history because that's the most important part. That's the information. A lot of the clients wanted to see, where are people going? Even if it wasn't a retail situation or some situation where they wanted to know the history inherently of where everyone went, there were a lot of situations, and our focus was on, enabling law enforcement in a disaster situation. So in that case, you had to keep the entire history just in case there was a disaster, right? Because if there was, then you needed to have that information to have for any reason, right? Maybe you knew the disaster happened, maybe you didn't. Maybe somebody discovered some problem, years or months later. So that is just, a part of this. We're going to talk later about, the differences today with, relational databases and NoSQL and that kind of stuff. We're not going to focus on NoSQL in this course, but we will discuss at a high level some of those things because it is important. And I've personally used both, and they both have their place. We're going to talk about that more later. But the point here is that we need to be able to store large amounts of data. And we need to be able to ensure its durability. So we need to be able to recover this database from failures or errors. If this machine is my database, which hopefully it's not, should be a server somewhere in the cloud or wherever. But if my server crashes because somebody pulls the plug out by accident, I need to know that my data is going to be pure and free of errors. If not, the moment I bring it back up, that I can at least get it back to that state, right? So that's one of the things that a database management system has to do. It has to provide this durability. Another piece it needs to do is security. right? We need to be able to control access to this. We need to be able to decide what users can see what. And it needs to be very granular, right? It's not just enough to say, Johnny's got access to the database so he can see everything. No. Johnny only needs to insert user records because that's his job. He doesn't need to know how much they make. He doesn't need to know the students and what their names are, right? Johnny needs to only do what Johnny needs to do. So that is a very important piece of this. Security needs to be ingrained in a real database management system at a core level, right? It needs to be right there from the start. It also needs to be able to kind of make sure that everything is done completely, right? So that's autonomicity. So the idea here is that actions are performed and they're performed completely. And we're going to come back more to that in a moment, like in a future talk, because we're going to kind of dive deep into what we call ACID. But for right now, I just want you to kind of see the basic traits that we're going to touch upon.